One last story I want to hit today is about ESPN, but it's a little bigger than ESPN. You know, I've mentioned to our listeners many times, my husband and I have 3 kids, two sons, and so the guys in our family love sports. They like to watch sports, like to talk about sports. They like to have games on when we used to have an NFL and all the leagues that had to stop during this shutdown. And I've always marveled how much not just my husband and our adult sons, but many other guys can sit and listen and watch sports and listen to sports commentary and listen to people sitting around, 2 or 3 guys or 5 guys around a table, and go on and on and on about like one game or one player or one team. I mean, ESPN, endless entertainment for a wide swath of Americans. And I love it. I love that my husband and our sons love sports. I love that guys enjoy hearing it, and many women do too. But ESPN is in trouble right now, numbers-wise, in terms of their following, because they have gotten off on the social justice warrior mindset. And so they have some of their commentary just turns off listeners, turns off the average American. People go to games, they go to the NFL, they go to the NBA, they go to any games they go to, they tune into ESPN because they like sports, because they love sports, because they love watching great players. They love watching a fabulous new quarterback or whatever, you know, great new receiver, whatever these positions are. They love watching that. They revel in the joy of sports and new strategies and new coaches and new players. They love it. The fans of sports, whether it's NFL or college basketball or college football or all the sports people watch, they do not go to watch it with a racial conscience, where being racially conscious. They're not going there to watch people because of the color of their skin. They're going to watch, whether they go to games in person or they just watch games on television, because they love sports. They want to go and listen to commentary that debates endlessly whether some new coach's strategy is really going to work, because after all, so-and-so's on that team, he may not love, blah, blah. They love all this. ESPN has become too political. And it's always, as everything else seems to be in America, it's become leftist in its political bent, in its determination. So the ESPN viewership, this is the news story I'm getting to, but ESPN's viewership sank to a 41-year low. People are tuning out. They don't want to be lectured to. And in very particular, at this time in America, they are tired of having, every time you turn the television on, to have everybody in authority or everybody who's got a show, everyone who's trying to draw you to their event, to be lecturing America about what a deeply horrible, awful, racist country we have. People are sick of hearing that. And many people will comment. In fact, it's in one of the articles that's posted on our website today, americacanbetalked.org, about the idea that fans whose very existence keeps the NFL and even college sports alive, but the NFL, the NBA, the fans go because they love sports. They don't go to be lectured, and many of them do not agree with the conclusions of the social justice warrior radical left that America is a deeply horrible, terrible, racist place. They just don't want to hear it. They do not enjoy sitting down, and when they think they're going to hear commentary about some new coach and his brilliant new strategy, and instead they have to listen to scolding and lecturing and demeaning about what a terrible country this is, how America's a terribly racist place, how all you white Americans, you're racist. The fans are just saying, no thanks. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do this. And so ESPN has a problem. And I'll tell you something else. This isn't just ESPN. This is like something sick in the water, in the air in America. It has become the trendy thing, not just for ESPN in the sporting world, and I could go into all other examples in the sporting world, where now everyone's saying, well, maybe we are going to let kneeling happen for the national anthem. Maybe we are going to be disrespectful to the American flag. Maybe we are going to be okay with that. But it's not even just sports. It is corporations. Actual businesses run by alleged adults as executives who are pulling advertising from Tucker Carlson because he said something about the Black Lives Matter movement that they don't agree with. So instead of saying, wow, this is America, we have a free country, we have the robust exchange of ideas, hallmark of Western civilization, Tucker Carlson can say his thing, all the rest of the radical, the mainstream media, which are all just, in bed with the social justice warriors and the radical left, they can say the opposite. But Tucker Carlson, one of the very few voices, besides mine, of course, but Tucker Carlson and a few other people in media are willing to speak truth, to hold interviews like we just had on this show with Brandon Tatum, to have even Black Americans speaking up and saying, this is not a racist country. This is not. Brandon, I will tell you, in fact, I'll put a link up later. I don't think I have it up in the links for today, but I'll put it up. There was a great YouTube video that Brandon Tatum did saying there is no such thing as white privilege. This is a myth. This is what the left made up. Yet another reason to torture and accuse America, to belittle Americans who happen to have been born with white skin, to make them feel like they are just guilty of all sorts of horrible things, to make them apologize for being born, apologize for the color of their skin. And there's just a I will say in America why ESPN is really having trouble. And I think other of these corporations that are willing to just instantly capitulate the moment Black Lives Matter says, hey, you advertise on Tucker Carlson and he criticized Black Lives Matter. What ought to be the answer of these supposed grown-ups running these corporations is to say, you know what? We don't do politics. We advertise because they have a great market. We're doing well. We're selling products when we advertise on that show, and so we're going to keep it up. We may advertise other places too, but we don't get pushed around by left-wing bullies. This should be the answer of corporations whose advertising has been pulled from Tucker Carlson. Grown-ups running those companies would say, you know what, this is not America the bullied. We're not going to get bullied by every radical leftist group that comes along and tells us whether or not we're permitted to advertise on some particular show. But unfortunately, what we do have instead is those corporations pulling advertising from Tucker Carlson. You have ESPN cannot figure out that their very base, their audience, doesn't want to hear more, I don't even know what to call it, just denigrating, destroying, attacking, maligning America. Most Americans know we live in a good country. In fact, this is another Brandon Tatum tape, and I'll find that one, put a link up for it too. He said, essentially, 99% of America is filled with people of every race and skin color, national origin, who are not racist. They don't spend any time thinking about other people's race and trying to judge people by their race. 99% of them are like that. 99% of police officers spend exactly 0 time thinking racist thoughts or exactly 0 time engaging in police brutality. So this is the reality of life. It took someone like Brandon Tatum saying those things when you have other people then in America willing to speak up and say, you know what, we're not going to go down the path that you have the radical left, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter extremists trying to push America down, which is agree we're a terrible country. We just have racism under every rock. We must have a national apology, which will never be enough, never be good enough, never be enough for the Antifa, Black Lives Matter agenda people, because their agenda is not to get to racial harmony. The agenda of Black Lives Matter and Antifa is not to get to racial harmony or racial justice in this country. That is not the agenda. The agenda is to tear down America. It is to tear down the rule of law. It is to so mock and ridicule and despise everything about America that so many Americans not paying attention figure out, wow, something must be really wrong. Really, America must be a terrible place after all, and I never knew it. And give in on the next apology tour they're trying to demand America does. It's not just, back to ESPN, it's not just that people don't want to hear their politics. It's not just that. People guys want to tune in and hear about sports commentary. For whatever reason, they can seemingly do it for hours. Guys want to be able to do that. They do not want to be lectured, scolded, insulted, and accused. This is not the reason you turn on sports, is to be lectured and scolded and insulted and accused. You turn on to watch sports. And if ESPN cannot contain themselves and stick to sports, they're going to continue losing their listenership. And I got to tell you, if the NFL thinks it's a smart idea to get on board with the Black Lives Matter, Antifa, anti-America, destroy America mission, they're going to discover that even when this COVID crisis is over, and even when football fields can be open and fans can fill the stadium, if you're going to spend your time disrespecting America, America is not going to take it. It's not just that ESPN is too political, it is that they are wrong. They are wrong in what they say about America. That does not mean that there aren't occasional bad incidents involving bad officers. It does not mean that there is not police brutality. We need to look into that. We need to try to fix it. We need to put changes into place. As Brandon Tatum pointed out, changes they've already been doing, and Black Lives Matter is trying to claim as something new they thought up. We can fix problems, we can address police brutality, we can call out racism, we can demand investigations with respect to any instance involved with officer-involved shootings of individuals. We have investigations anyway. But the broad accusation being made by the American left in this election season of 2020, the broad accusation is that America is a terrible, horrible, evil, racist place that simply must be taken down, that must surrender to what the left is trying to bring America, which is a Marxist-controlled society with policing abandoned, surrender to the federal government, national police. There couldn't be a worse idea in America. That is what the policing issue is in America, what we're going to have to face in the 2020 elections. If you think what ESPN is portraying, if you think what Black Lives Matter is trying to claim, if you think what Antifa is trying to claim is true, that America is a horrible, evil, racist place filled with racists, that everyone in this country who doesn't look like you probably hates you because of your skin color. If you think that's what America is, then you're out of your mind, number one, you're wrong, and you go ahead and vote Democrat. Because what's going to happen if those people who've taken over that area of Seattle, that Chaz area, if those people run this country, that thinking runs this country that says, you know what, everything's about race, everybody who has a certain skin color, it must be feel guilty the rest of your life. No police are allowed to make arrests. We're going to have community justice or justice administered by the radical leftists running places like Chaz. If you think that sounds good to you, you go for it. But I think the reason ESPN has lost listenership, the reason Americans are fed up and sick of it, is not just because they don't want to hear politics of any kind when they go to watch sports. It's because the accusation against America is false. And I think more and more in this last 2, 3, 4 weeks, we've been watching the turmoil in America. I think more Americans are waking up to the real agenda of the radical left. It is not to bring racial justice. It is not to bring racial harmony. It is not to make America fair. It is to bring into being a transformation of America into a country rooted in the rule of law, with police who enforce laws, to a country that the left wants, which is very much a collectivist, Marxist control of our society from Washington, obliteration of the policing function, which is vital to having civil liberty and a civil society. That, what the left is wants to bring to America, more Americans are finally realizing for the first time, and they don't want any of it.